Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. From an early age, I realized that the biggest enemy of success wasn't out there. It was inside my mind. I grew up in Hangzhou at a time when China was just waking up to the business world. I had no access to capital, no sky-high IQ, and I failed at almost everything I tried. But one thing followed me, an inner restlessness. A voice saying that if I changed the way I thought, I could change everything. Most people look to the world expecting a magical answer. Money, a better job, a boss who finally sees them. But what if the answer was already inside you? I say this because I learned the human brain is like a powerful computer, but one without a manual. If you don't take control of the programming, someone else will. Your parents, school, media, even your friends, they're all writing code into your mind. If not now, when? If not me, who? I used to say this in my early speeches, and I say it to you now. While you're waiting for the world to change, time is passing, and time doesn't come back. The power to transform doesn't lie in what you have, but in what you believe about yourself. In the toughest moments, when everything seemed to go wrong, I stopped looking for someone to blame out there. I stopped waiting for the government to change, for the economy to improve, or for someone to rescue me. Real success requires a special kind of courage, the courage to look within. And that's where true personal development begins. When you grow your self-awareness, you begin to change your reality. A well-trained mind becomes your greatest ally on the life transformation journey. Have you ever noticed how some people manage to grow even during a crisis? They aren't lucky. They've simply accessed a level of mental resilience that most people never develop. They understood that their internal state determines their external results. And more than that, they learned that gratitude isn't just a feel-good emotion. It's a practical tool to unlock mental clarity. The more you're grateful for what you have, the more connected you become with what's still to come. Self-discipline, success mindset, and willpower development are like muscles. They must be trained daily. The focus shouldn't be on what's missing, but on what can be built with what you already have. And this is where productivity and time management come into play. When you stop wasting energy fighting the world and start channeling that energy into changing your mind, everything else begins to shift. And then you start to realize there's a powerful triangle waiting for you in the next step. For years, I tried to understand why some people seem to progress easily while others sank into frustration, even when they had talent. That's when I realized success isn't about gift, it's about alignment. Mind, emotion, and time. This is the triangle that separates those who live on autopilot from those who build lasting legacies. I called it the unstoppable triangle. Positive thinking alone isn't enough. Your thoughts, your emotions, and your time management must be in sync with your goals. The mind is the engine that drives your decisions, but without emotion, there's no fuel. And without time, there's no road to move forward. Have you ever seen someone with big ideas who keeps procrastinating? Or someone full of energy but lacking direction? I was like that in the beginning, excited but scattered. The day would pass and nothing was truly done. That's when I internalized that discipline is not a restriction, it's freedom. It's through it that we're able to apply our success habits consistently. The secret is simple yet powerful. You need to learn to conduct this triangle like a maestro leads an orchestra. If one part is out of tune, mind, emotion, or time, the entire progress falls apart. And here comes one of the phrases that marked my journey. If not now, when? If not me, who? I repeated it so many times until it became my mantra. It reminded me that time wouldn't wait for me, and no one would come to save me. What I didn't do for myself, no one else would. If you want to develop true self-discipline and focus on productivity, start by reorganizing this triangle. Use time management techniques to protect your most creative hours. Practice gratitude to balance your emotions during tough days. And fortify your mind with daily reading, like Deep Work by Cal Newport, which helped me understand the importance of focused attention. That book is a real manual for mental empowerment. You may start the day feeling lost, but if you learn to adjust these three elements throughout the journey, you can still transform it. The victory triangle isn't some abstract concept. It's a practical compass you can apply today. And that's why, once you understand this triangle, you begin to notice something surprising about what's really blocking your growth. You were born with incredible hardware, your mind, but very early in life, someone installed pirated software in it, limiting beliefs, fear, scarcity thinking. That's what most of us grow up with. I was rejected from more than 30 jobs. Even KFC rejected me. 23 people applied, and 22 were accepted. I was the only one left out, but I never allowed those rejections to rewrite my faith in the future. You see, it wasn't about me. It was about the virus in the system trying to convince me I wasn't good enough. Just like a computer infected with malware slows down and crashes, a mind infected with negative programming can't function properly. It becomes reactive, fearful, and rigid. People walk around with ideas like, I'm not smart enough, I'm too old, or that dream is too big for someone like me. But these thoughts are not yours. They were downloaded from environments that didn't understand your potential. Your personal growth depends on your willingness to uninstall those beliefs and install new ones based on gratitude, resilience, and self-belief. Reprogramming the mind requires intentional action. It's not just thinking positive, it's learning a new language. The language of success mindset, of emotional intelligence, of visualization. I used to imagine Alibaba as a global company long before we had a website. People laughed at me, but I kept feeding my mind with images of what could be. Because if you don't dominate your mind, someone else will. And if your operating system isn't upgraded, it will keep crashing in the same old ways. Your current results are simply reflections of old programming. And most of the time, the code you're running wasn't even written by you. That's why you need to study your own thoughts like a coder analyzes a bug. Is that fear really yours, or was it planted there? This is where self-awareness and continuous learning become your weapons. The most powerful change I ever made wasn't external. It was the inner decision to take back control of my own software. Success habits are like code updates. You must run them daily. Gratitude practices. Act like an antivirus. Daily improvement is like patching security holes. The longer you delay this mental update, the more risk you carry of repeating yesterday's failures tomorrow. Don't let an old virus define your future, because when you shift your internal software, something powerful begins to happen in how you see the world around you. You think you see with your eyes, but actually you see with your mind. I used to believe opportunities were rare, that life was unfair, and that some people were just born lucky. And that's exactly what I kept experiencing: rejection, hardship, lack. It wasn't until I shifted my internal perspective that I started noticing doors I had never seen before. You can't see solutions with a problem-oriented lens. Your mind is the filter, not your eyes. And if the filter is cracked, everything you see will be distorted. It's like wearing dirty glasses. Everything seems blurry, even if the world itself is clear. Most people aren't seeing reality. They're seeing the reflection of their beliefs. When you believe life is hard, your brain will only highlight struggles. But if you believe life can change, your brain will start spotting opportunities. I used to tell my team, the mind is like a filter. It only shows what you already believe. That sentence became a key in our early journey, especially when no one believed Alibaba could succeed. Every major breakthrough I had came after a change in mindset, not after receiving external help. I started asking better questions. What if this failure was a lesson? What if this no was redirecting me to a better path? I stopped seeing problems and started seeing training. That's what self-improvement is all about, upgrading the lens through which you see the world. Positive thinking isn't delusion, it's precision. It focuses your mind on possibilities, not just problems. This doesn't mean you ignore reality. It means you learn to shape how you interpret it. People say seeing is believing, but the truth is, believing is seeing. If you want more out of life, you must train your mental radar to detect opportunities others can't see. The more you practice self-awareness and visualization, the more attuned you become to doors that were always there, just hidden from a mind clouded by fear and doubt. Every goal you have is already surrounded by opportunities, but you'll never see them if your mindset is stuck in survival mode. It's like being in a room full of light with your eyes closed. The moment you open them, your entire world changes, but the light was always there. What else has been around you all this time, just waiting for your mind to unlock its visibility? Every great player rehearses mentally before winning in the physical world. I wasn't the strongest, richest, or smartest person in the room, but I became one of the most consistent at rehearsing success in my mind long before it arrived. Science has already proven that visualizing an action activates the same muscles as performing it. I didn't wait for Alibaba to become big to believe in it. I saw it in my mind when we were just a small site in China. The stage was tiny, but the vision was global. Your brain doesn't distinguish between what's vividly imagined and what's physically experienced. This is where self-belief and visualization become critical tools. When you rehearse success daily, what you'll say, how you'll feel, what you'll build, you prepare your mind to execute with certainty. I visualized meetings with global investors years before they happened. And when they finally did, it felt like deja vu, not anxiety. That's how you build emotional intelligence, not by avoiding pressure, but by rehearsing how you'll handle it. People underestimate the power of inner imagery. They spend hours scrolling through distractions, but never spend 5 minutes rehearsing the life they want. I used to picture how I'd inspire my team, how I'd respond to failure, how we'd celebrate the first major deal. These weren't fantasies, they were mental blueprints. Daily visualization trains your brain to recognize opportunities, stay focused, and trust your self-discipline, even when results are not yet visible. Mental rehearsal isn't magic, it's a practice. Just like athletes use it to sharpen reaction times, you can use it to enhance productivity and motivation. Want to speak confidently? Practice the speech in your mind 100 times. Want to lead your team better? Rehearse tough conversations before they happen. Visualization isn't wishful thinking, it's mental preparation. The difference between panic and poise is how many times you've seen yourself succeed beforehand. If you're constantly overwhelmed or frozen by fear, chances are you're mentally rehearsing the wrong things. Most people visualize failure without realizing it. They imagine worst-case scenarios and call it being realistic. But if you can rehearse fear, you can also rehearse courage. The question is, what movie are you playing in your mind every day, and are you ready to direct a new one starting now? If you live in fear, anxiety, and stress, your mind will shut off logical thinking. I've been there. I've had days where it felt like the entire world was collapsing on top of me. Bankruptcy knocking at the door, critics shouting louder than customers, and everything felt like quicksand. But I realized something powerful. Emotions aren't the enemy, they're signals. They just need leadership. If you don't lead your emotions, they will lead you straight into paralysis. It took time for me to stop reacting and start thinking. When Alibaba faced its hardest moments, I practiced stillness. Not to escape, but to think clearer. That's when I understood that true emotional intelligence is not about never feeling anger, fear, or sadness. It's about knowing what to do with those feelings. I trained my mind not to be a slave to temporary emotions. And let me tell you, that changed the entire game. Because when you stay calm, you stay in control. One of my favorite metaphors became a guiding principle. If you want to catch the rabbit, don't change the rabbit, change yourself. You can't always change what's happening around you, but you can change how you respond. That's the foundation of mental resilience. If your internal environment is chaotic, your external life will mirror it. But when you take ownership of your emotional state, you unlock a deeper layer of self-discipline that builds the success mindset you're striving for. Emotions like gratitude, curiosity, and compassion elevate your thinking. Fear and stress narrow it. Think of your emotions as the energy powering your mental software. If you're running on panic mode, even the best strategies will crash. I practice gratitude daily, especially during chaos. It wasn't just a ritual, it was armor. Gratitude gave me the strength to pause, breathe, and choose better thoughts. That's the kind of self-awareness that builds long-term empowerment. The question isn't whether you'll feel fear, it's whether fear will drive your decisions. Emotional mastery doesn't mean silence, it means clarity. Most people wait to feel calm before taking action. But the truth is, action often creates calm. So what would happen if, instead of waiting for emotions to change, you decided to lead them with your actions starting today? The narrative you repeat becomes your prison or your freedom. I can't do it. This isn't for me. I'm just like this. These aren't harmless phrases. They are scripts. And if you keep reading the same script, your life will keep playing out the same story. I was once called a fool, someone too naive to understand how business worked. But I told myself a different story, that being underestimated was a secret weapon, that dreaming differently was not foolish, it was fearless. Your internal dialogue creates your reality. People think they need a new job, a new city, or a new relationship to change their lives. But most of the time, they just need a new story. You don't rise above your words, you live within them. When I was rejected by Harvard 10 times, I could have said, I'm not smart enough. But I chose to say, they don't see it yet. That mindset helped me keep moving when everything told me to stop. That's self-belief in action. When you speak, your brain listens. It rewires itself around the language you choose. If your vocabulary is full of limitations, your mind will adapt to survive, not thrive. That's why gratitude practices, affirmations, and daily improvement are more than self-help. They're software updates. Every day, I chose to reinforce the story of a man who would build something meaningful, not the story of a failure trying to survive. I once said, they laughed at me because I dreamed differently, and that laughter became fuel. The more they doubted, the more I believed. Because doubt from others doesn't kill your dream, only your own does. The success mindset is not about pretending things are perfect. It's about choosing the narrative that keeps you moving, especially when the world is silent or cruel. You don't have to change your whole life overnight. But what if you change the story you tell yourself just today? What if you stopped repeating old lines and started writing new ones? Lines that reflect who you're becoming, not who you've been. Imagine how that shift could rewrite your entire reality starting now. There was a woman named Josefa who believed she was sick, even though all the tests came back clean. Her body responded as if it were ill, weakness, fatigue, tension. Why? Because the mind is the CEO of the body, and when the mind issues a command, the body obeys, whether it's true or not. I've seen this pattern over and over in business, in sports, in life. People break down not because they're weak, but because their thoughts are too heavy to carry. I believe faith is an invisible force that moves businesses and lives. When you believe something deeply, it alters your biology. Gratitude doesn't just uplift your mood, it regulates stress hormones. Visualization doesn't just prepare your brain, It activates neural pathways in your muscles. Your personal development journey isn't just about thoughts. It's about how those thoughts shape your cells, posture, energy, and actions. That's why self-awareness is not optional. It's survival. People often chase physical fixes for mental problems. They change diets, take supplements, or hit the gym trying to solve what's actually a mindset issue. But you can't heal the body without aligning the mind. Productivity tips won't work if you believe deep down that you're not capable or worthy of success. It's like putting premium fuel in a car with the wrong programming. You need both, high-quality inputs and a high-functioning system. I've seen entrepreneurs burn out not because they were lazy, but because they were driven by fear instead of vision. That internal pressure aged them, drained them. But when you operate from purpose, the energy flows differently. You recover faster, you think clearer, and your body starts responding to your success mindset like a well-trained athlete responds to their coach. That's the hidden power behind motivation and self-discipline. What you think, you become. What you feel, you embody. The connection is not symbolic, it's biological. When your beliefs support your goals, your body becomes a vehicle for progress, not resistance. This is where true empowerment begins, not in theory, but in the transformation of your everyday experience. I failed so many times that people started recognizing me not for my success, but for my resilience. And I was proud of that. Most people fear failure as if it defines them, but I saw it as a message. Try again, but differently. Rejection was my teacher, and mistakes were my mentors. I was the only person rejected from KFC out of 24 applicants. I was turned down by Harvard 10 times. But none of those failures were the end. They were just notes on how to play the next move better. Failure does not mean you're a failure. It means you're in motion. People often confuse an outcome with an identity. They fall once and start saying, "I'm not good enough, I'll never make it," or "this just isn't for me." But failure isn't personal, it's mechanical, it's feedback. The real danger lies in letting that moment of defeat become your permanent self-image. Growth mindset is understanding that every no is a compass pointing you to a new direction. I used every setback as material to build something stronger. When our first Alibaba model didn't work, I didn't collapse. I adapted. We listened, we pivoted, we learned. That's what continuous learning is about, transforming breakdowns into breakthroughs. People talk about willpower and success habits, but those only activate when you understand that failure is not an interruption. It's part of the process. Resilience is not something you're born with. It's built through repetition. Each time you stand back up, you're not starting from scratch. You're starting from experience. It's the compounding effect of showing up again and again that shapes your identity. That's what separates temporary setbacks from permanent defeat. And that's why developing mental resilience is one of the greatest investments you can ever make in yourself. When you stop fearing failure and start learning from it, you unlock a level of freedom that most people never taste. You move faster, risk smarter, and recover quicker. That's when you stop playing not to lose and start playing to win. There's power in knowing that falling is just part of rising. Did you know that 90% of your thoughts today are the same as yesterday's? That blew my mind when I first learned it. It means most people aren't really thinking, they're just repeating. Their lives are not shaped by conscious decisions, but by outdated mental loops. I began to see that if I didn't consciously reprogram my thoughts, I would live the same year over and over again and call it a life. That realization hit me hard, and it changed everything. I've seen brilliant minds grow old without evolving. They aged, but they didn't grow. Why? Because they let the external world program their internal world. And once that happens, you become a passenger in your own life. I've met people stuck in routines, stuck in roles, stuck in relationships, not because they didn't have options, but because their autopilot was steering the ship. They weren't driving anymore. That's the cost of not practicing self-awareness. Jack Ma, the public persona, was built because I refused to live on default settings. I used visualization to install new beliefs, I read daily to challenge my thinking, and I tracked my time management religiously. Productivity isn't about doing more. It's about choosing what's worth doing. If you don't interrupt your mental patterns, your environment will. And most environments are not designed for growth. They're designed for compliance. Daily improvement became my compass. Small, consistent upgrades in the way I think, the way I act, and the way I rest. I didn't wait for breakthroughs. I created momentum by resetting my mind every day. That's what developing a success mindset really means. It's not one big aha moment. It's learning to wake up and ask, who am I becoming today? And is that someone worth repeating? When you become conscious of your unconscious patterns, you regain your power. You stop being a victim of repetition and start becoming a creator of transformation. There's no freedom without awareness, and there's no evolution without disruption. Growth starts the moment you stop accepting the script you didn't write. Stop giving your power away to your boss, to the crisis, to other people's opinions. I had to learn this the hard way. In the early days of Alibaba, I kept thinking, if only we had investors, if only the market were better. But that mindset only created frustration. Real change happened when I realized I am not here to react to life. I'm here to respond from within. That's when I stopped waiting and started leading, from the inside out. You can't build anything meaningful if your emotions are at the mercy of circumstances. Your most powerful asset isn't your resume, your resources, or your background. It's your ability to control your focus. When you live in reaction mode, you're just a puppet on the strings of other people's behavior. But when you reclaim your focus, you become a director. That shift is the foundation of emotional intelligence and mental resilience. I once told a room full of entrepreneurs, if you want to change the world, start by changing your attitude. People laughed, but I wasn't joking. Attitude is energy. It's how you show up when nothing is certain. I didn't build Alibaba with money. We didn't have any. I built it with self-discipline, with gratitude practices, with relentless internal alignment. Because once you own your attitude, you own your outcome. Focusing on what you can control creates instant momentum. You start making smarter decisions, not out of fear, but from clarity. Time management becomes easier when you stop giving time to things you can't change. Productivity tips start working because your energy is no longer being drained by what's outside your influence. That's the power of self-awareness. It teaches you where your true control lies. Everything begins to shift the moment you realize that your real strength isn't about overpowering the world. It's about mastering yourself. And that mastery starts with a single decision: to stop blaming and start claiming your internal space as sacred. That's the place where your power resides. You can lose money and earn it back, but time never returns. That truth haunted me for years. I used to waste hours worrying, planning endlessly, or doing tasks that didn't really matter. Until I realized time isn't just a resource. It's the most valuable currency we have. And once spent, it's gone forever. That shift in perspective made me rethink everything about productivity and how I managed my life. I began to separate the urgent from the important. Urgent tasks scream for your attention, but important tasks build your future. I used to spend entire days responding to emails, attending meetings that led nowhere, and saying yes to everyone. But none of that moved the needle. Success mindset isn't about being busy, it's about being intentional. I learned that if I didn't protect my time, someone else would spend it for me. Planning my future as if I had no time to waste changed my execution. Every minute became an investment. I asked myself daily, is this moving me closer to the vision I have? Time management became sacred. I created buffers in my schedule to think, reflect, and breathe. Because thinking is not a luxury, it's a necessity for those who want to lead. The more I valued time, the more life started responding to me with clarity. When people tell me they have no time, I tell them to look at their priorities. We all have 24 hours, but not all hours are used with awareness. If you spend your golden hours on distraction, you'll wake up one day full of regret. That's why gratitude and self-awareness must live alongside productivity. When you're grateful for your time, you don't waste it. You treasure it. You direct it. Nothing accelerated my personal growth more than respecting time as a non-renewable resource, not just in business, but in relationships, health, and learning. Time is your silent partner in every transformation. Use it well, and it will compound your results. Waste it, and it quietly takes your dreams with it. You've got the most advanced machine in the world between your ears, but no one ever gave you the manual. That was my biggest realization. For years, I thought maybe I was just unlucky or not good enough. But then it hit me. I wasn't broken. I was just untrained. The brain doesn't come with instructions, but that doesn't mean the manual doesn't exist. You just have to go looking for it. I began to study how the mind works, not from textbooks, but from life. I learned that thoughts create patterns, patterns shape behavior, and behavior defines results. It wasn't magic, it was design. Once I discovered the mental principles, the 7 laws, as I started to call them, everything changed. It wasn't about having a better brain than others. It was about learning to use mine better. That's when the shift toward true personal development began. I remember struggling in the early years thinking, why does it work for them but not for me? The answer was in my programming. My mind was running outdated scripts. But when I started using tools like visualization, gratitude, and self-discipline consistently, I began to install new commands. These weren't hacks, they were fundamentals. They aligned with every piece of productivity and growth mindset advice I'd ever heard. But now they made sense. Once I saw how thoughts turned into results, I never looked at anything the same again. Success wasn't random anymore, it was replicable. I created my own mental operating system, one based on empowerment, not fear. I stopped trying to fix the world and started mastering my internal world. And what happened? The external world began to align with the new internal structure I had built. You don't need a new life. You need new instructions for the life you already have. The manual of your mind exists. It's found in every choice, every habit, every response. It's not hidden, it's just unused. But once activated, it becomes the most powerful guide you've ever known. In the end, it's not about what you have, it's about who you become. That's what truly transforms your story. I've seen people with no money, no connections, no perfect background rise to extraordinary heights because they believed in something deeper, themselves. When I started Alibaba, I didn't have the resources, but I had vision, persistence, and a mind that refused to surrender. That was my real capital. The day you decide you are unstoppable is the day your reality starts to bend. Not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. Reprogram your mind. Master your emotions. Guard your time like gold. These are not luxury habits. They are survival strategies in a distracted, chaotic world. When your thoughts, emotions, and time align with your vision, you become a force that circumstances can't control. I've always said, When you're poor, if you have a dream, you never feel poor. Because that dream, that inner fire, turns obstacles into stepping stones. And when people laugh, criticize, or doubt you, that's your confirmation. It means you're no longer average. It means your growth is starting to shake the status quo. That's where empowerment truly begins. Not when the world applauds, but when you keep moving without it. The future doesn't belong to the lucky. It belongs to the prepared. Build your inner software like it's your most important asset, because it is. Invest in self-discipline, positive thinking, and resilience like you'd invest in gold. Align every thought and action with your highest standard, because no external achievement will ever outgrow the size of your internal foundation. There is no success strong enough to stand if you don't believe you deserve it. But the moment you embody that belief, you become unstoppable. Not someday, not eventually, but now. This is the turning point, not just for what you do, but for who you are from this moment forward.
What Jack Ma shared in this presentation wasn't just advice, it was a revelation. With his usual charm and sharp clarity, Jack Ma delivered a masterclass that redefined how we see ourselves, our limits, and the infinite power of the human mind. Drawing from his personal struggles, being rejected from 30 jobs, including KFC, and turned down by Harvard 10 times, he reminded us that greatness is never handed to anyone. It's earned through the mastery of what lies within. He started by demolishing a belief that holds millions back, the idea that the answers are outside. In one powerful insight, Jack Ma exposed how our internal programming, not external circumstances, dictates our future. With raw honesty, he told the story of how he built Alibaba not with money or connections, but with mindset, emotional strength, and time precision. The audience was left wide-eyed as he revealed what he calls the victory triangle, the alignment of mind, emotion, and time. One of the most striking parts of the presentation was when Jack Ma likened the human brain to advanced hardware infected by negative software. He explained how limiting beliefs, often planted in childhood, silently sabotage progress. But then, with electric energy, he flipped the script and shared how we can uninstall these mental viruses and upload a new operating system through visualization, gratitude, and daily improvement. He connected the dots between what we think and what we physically become. Using powerful metaphors and stories, Jack Ma explained how mental rehearsal activates the same neural pathways as real action, proving that we can condition ourselves for greatness before it even happens. His voice didn't just speak logic, it awakened possibility. In a moment that many described as life-altering, he addressed how emotional hijacking can ruin productivity and decision-making. He showed how mastering our inner world, our fears, stress, and reactions, is the true art of emotional intelligence. As he put it, if you want to catch the rabbit, don't change the rabbit, change yourself. That line alone became a mantra echoing in the minds of everyone watching. Jack Ma also revealed a truth often ignored. Most people aren't living, they're repeating. He challenged the audience to step out of autopilot mode and reclaim their time, energy, and dreams. With practical frameworks on time management and self-awareness, he demonstrated how anyone, regardless of background, can create exponential results by focusing on what truly matters. And in perhaps the most soul-stirring part of the talk, he shared that success is not about what you accumulate, but about who you become. That faith isn't a feeling. It's a force that activates unseen resources. That your greatest resource is already inside you, waiting to be reprogrammed. This wasn't a motivational talk. It was a call to personal revolution, a blueprint for anyone ready to stop surviving and start becoming unstoppable. Now, the only question that remains isn't whether it's possible, but whether you're ready to start. Now that you've seen the real power behind your own mind, what are you going to do with it? This isn't just another video you watched. This is a new starting point. Every strategy Jack Ma shared here isn't theory. It's been tested in failure, in rejection, in silence. And it worked, not just to build a company, but to build an unstoppable human being. You don't need to change your whole life overnight. Just start with one belief. Reprogram one thought. Take control of 1 hour. What's stopping you is not your past. It's the story you keep repeating about it. Today is the day to interrupt that story and start writing the one that leads to your highest self. If something clicked with you, if a sentence hit deeper than expected, comment below. Share what insight made the biggest impact. This is how transformation begins, with awareness, with action, and with community. And if one part of this message helped you shift, imagine what will happen when you revisit it again. So here's your next move. Rewatch this whenever you need clarity, direction, or fire in your soul. And don't forget, hit that subscribe button now, not later. Because if you leave this page without subscribing, chances are you'll never find this channel again. And that's not something you want to risk if you're serious about your growth. Activate the notifications too, because what comes next might be the insight that unlocks the next level of your life. Speaking of next, your journey continues in the video titled, "If you're waiting for motivation, watch this now." Jack Ma's advice. Trust me, you don't want to miss it.